and I take my 2 suitcases and I move to New York, all while my mother is dying of cancer. The reason why I took those 2 suitcases is because one of the last things my mom said to me was, you have to do everything. She was like, I am 56 and there are so many things I can think of that I have never, ever done, that I wanted to do. So if there is a small dream, big dream, little dream, a want, a need, do it. This DJ part is even more proof to me that I am really kind of just making certain moves, but certain things are already destined for me. Because again, if I had have done this earlier or later, I'm not sure I would have stopped and intentionally been this good. The same, I don't know if I'm good enough. I'm there. I feel that. But the idea, again, is to start and do it despite everything that I've done, is despite the fear, despite the lack, despite that I might not make it. And I honestly don't, at this point for me, I'm so good at it. It's almost like a little delulu. I don't even know it exists. Like, I'm just like, oh, there was a possibility this couldn't work. Oh, that's interesting. Hey friends, this is Ty Alexander and you're listening to Dreams and Drive.
Hey Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 376 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And today in the guest chair, we have best-selling author, speaker, podcaster, wellness blogger, and DJ Ty Alexander. So you all may actually know Ty from her infamous blog that she created in 2010, Gorgeous and Gray. And since then, she has become a leading authority in lifestyle, beauty, and wellness-related content, has been partnered and featured in top brands such as CNN, O Magazine, Essence, Dove, Cadillac, State Farm, Amtrak, and more. And what I love about this conversation with Ty is just how she continually strives for greatness in all that she does. So we're going to talk about her foray into media, how she got her start, growing as an influencer with Gorgeous and Gray, and this new big pivot, or I should say the new dream that she's fulfilling that she actually got started with during the pandemic, which is becoming a DJ. And the thing about that is she's just not dreaming this dream. She's actually driving it. She's real life living it and has accomplished so much in the few short years since adding DJ to her resume. This is going to be an episode about starting, an episode about believing, and an episode about karma, the good kind, right? And just how putting good things out into the world can definitely come back to you during the times when you need it the most. And I've been a fan of Ty for so long, so just being able to finally have a conversation with her is just so dope on all levels. You'll actually hear in the episode how we met, kind of how when I first saw her, and just how that's actually a coincidental moment within itself, right? If you're not already, please make sure you're following us on social media. You can find us across the board at Dreams and Drive, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. And also make sure if you want to be part of our email newsletter, The Keys, and get email updates delivered right to your inbox, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. All right, let's hear from Ty. Hi, Ty. Welcome to Dreams and Drive. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. It is not dreary day. I'm here in New Jersey. It's an okay day. How is it down where you are?
It is now snowing. I'm looking out the window. Yes, so it might be on your way because I'm in Baltimore. But I'm looking out the window now and it is little flurries, which I think I love snow. I like to stay inside by the fireplace and veg out on the couch. So yeah, it's snowing here.
Okay, well, snow, I won't be too bad about snow. I know my son will definitely love it. So before we get into the real crux of your story, I think it's so important for us to go back in time, right? And to think about where we started. So take me, where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Baltimore?
So I grew up in a small town called Chestertown, Maryland, which is about 2 hours from Baltimore on the Eastern Shore near Ocean City. Ocean City is like the landmark that everyone knows because Chestertown is so small.
So, let's go there, right? Let's pull up. I'm driving. So the car I'm driving, because I like them, are a BMW, right? I'm picking you up and we're going back home, right? We're going back to 7-year-old Ty. Tell me what was inspiring you back then? What was exciting you about the world?
The craziest part is that Chestertown is so small. I didn't realize that it's even crazy to say. I don't think I realized that there was a world per se, right? Like it
Oh
was
my
just,
gosh, that's small.
yeah, like it's literally it's a little bit bigger now, but at the time there was literally maybe under 5,000 people in the town. Like I graduated in 94 with 94 people in my class, like very, very small. Like we knew everybody in the town, that kind of small. And so it didn't really occur to me until I was an adult. Well, I kind of knew a little bit because I would come to Baltimore and then I have family in Delaware and like family in Philly. So I would see the city a little bit. But it wasn't until I got older that I kind of realized that like other people existed in the world, if that's crazy.
Yeah. It's a little crazy, but
just
it's
a little. But
yeah,
I think
true.
Our town was so small, it just felt like it was just us. So I didn't like dreams and things didn't really occur to me at that age. I just wanted to have fun. And I remember my mom making it fun for us. So it didn't feel like we were bored, even though growing up, now I know there was literally nothing to do. But well, we made fun in the house, we made fun outside in the backyard. And so I don't know if I really thought about what that meant at 7 years old coming from, cause I wasn't exposed to a lot as a kid. It wasn't until I became an adult that I realized that there were so many things to do, which I probably would credit to the reason why as an adult now I'm like, I got to do everything because
That makes
there's
sense.
so much to do.
Was there something though that you can think back at, maybe not 7, but adolescent years, teenage years that you were discovering about yourself? Whoa, I'm like really good at this, or I could potentially see myself doing this, quote unquote, when I grow up.
The craziest thing, listen, this is the horrible, I'm going to make this question so bad.
No, it's real. Everybody answers this differently, so don't even worry about it.
It wasn't, I literally think I can do anything, honestly and truly. And I've always thought that. Now, will I stick with it? That's a different story, right? Those require different skill sets. But I literally believed as a kid, like I played the piano, I played the saxophone, I did tap, I did ballet, I was in the choir. Like I literally did any and everything that I wanted to do that I thought was cool. I didn't ever once think, oh, I can't do that. I never in my life. Now, do I do it in fear? Sure. But I've never thought I can't do that.
No, but that's interesting, right? Because I think if you think about what that means, right? That means that you had a early confidence in yourself that not everyone else had, right? Like you had this early belief that I think having that core foundation so young is important.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess I can credit my mom because my mom never told me no, right? Like I didn't have a mom that was like, oh, no, you can't do that. Or you're too big to do that or too small. I never had a mom who said I couldn't do anything. So if I had an idea or if I saw something that I wanted to try, she'd be like, sure, let's try it. If you don't want to try it, you don't want to do it anymore, you don't got to do it anymore. You know what I mean? And so I've just always been of the thought that I can try anything at least once. Like, what's the harm? And if it doesn't work out, I can move on and do something else.
So talk to me. You said you graduated in 94. Talk to me about that thing that you tried after, school. And how did that work out? Like, what was that early life of Ty like? And what were you getting into? Or what did you think what did you think adult life would be like? Because a lot of us sometimes have this, like, I say I was delusional, right? Like when I find like my little things, like when I grow up, I want to be this. And like these thoughts I had about the world, even coming out of high school and the realities of that, they're very different, right?
For sure. For sure. I think as like a high schooler, I wanted to be a teacher, but then I got pregnant and I had my son. My son is now 28. So most of my early adulthood thoughts were survival. Like, how am I going to take care of this child? So the idea of what I'm going to be when I grow up, it just left, right?
Yeah.
Because now I have to figure out if I'm going to go to school or if I'm going to finish college, or if I'm going to do a trade, or if I'm going to go to work at the bank, things like that. And so a lot of my, again, early adult memories were literally hustling because I got to put food on this table for this baby.
What was it like being a young mother? Did you feel like my world is over, right? Or were you like, okay, optimistic about not the life of your child, but the life for yourself?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not over. I had the best support system. My mother and father at the time were still married. Of course, my mother has passed on. But my mother and father were still present in my life, still together, and they helped me raise my son. So I didn't feel um, that kind of stereotypical defeat, I guess, that would come with being a teen mom. Of course, there were pressures and there was like this really weird imbalance of like being a teenager, but then also being a mom and then trying to figure out what to do with my life, but then also being a mom. You know, and I'm like, there were so many two truths at the same time thing kind of happening. And so there was a lot of juggling. I remember in the early mom, like me and my son definitely grew up together, which is also a gift and a curse. Like I feel like it on my end, I've always felt like maybe I could have done better, but then I give myself grace because how could I have known? I was 19, you know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of that early, again, was just the balance of like, wow, we got to get her done. we can't let this kid die.
Like somebody got to eat, you know, baby got to eat.
Everybody got to eat.
What's that show? Not that show. That there's like that rap song, something, need some shoes. Something,
yeah, all of that. We need some shoes. We need everything. We need milk. Baby needs some milk. You know.
Oh man, no, I love that you share that because I think, you know, I've had a lot of people on the show, and, you know, some people have definitely shared their stories being young mothers. And I even I wouldn't say I'm a young mom because I had my first son when I was 29, right? So I feel like I was well established, but I even was still like, damn, right?
Yeah.
It's a shock, but
I'm not sure. And it's crazy because obviously 19 is young, but the generations before us was having babies at 14 and having whole husbands. And, you know, the times have changed, of course, and we can afford to have more time to, you know, wait to have children and things like that. But I'm not sure the idea of like being ready, right, to have a baby, I think it's just false. Like, I don't know if you arrive at any age and you're like, ooh, I'm ready to have a baby. And then the baby comes and you have it all figured out, right? Like
you are never ready.
Yeah, there's literally no handbook. Each and every singular child is different. there's no handbook for this stuff. And of course you can build communities or you can find friends and you have family, of course, to make it better. But I don't think that nothing on this world prepares you for nurturing and bringing a baby, a child into this world.
If you had to say, right, that like one thing your son left in you was what? And when I say left in you, I mean, let's say I want to take us to the next part of your life, right? But going through, you know, his first years, like what was that thing that was growing within you that you think was a direct result of you being a mother?
I don't know about growing, but I think I've always had this, and I think it comes from, again, the idea of trying everything doesn't allow for you to really become a master at lots of things. And so a lot of my life, I have had imposter syndrome because it's like, okay, I played the piano. Then I was like, okay, never mind. Like, right. I never really stuck with lots of things. So then you form this kind of like, am I who I am? Am I who I say I am? Right. And so, but my son, especially with motherhood, I thought a lot that like I was bad. Like I was a teen mom. I was outside. I just wanted to do things. You know, I did the best I could, but could I have done better? Obviously. And my son reminds me daily, all the time, of his perspective as my child and how much grace he's given me and that I need to give myself that same grace. And his perspective just looks like his view of how he grew up is amazing. Like he had everything. He didn't miss for anything. He didn't want for anything, right? And so I'm like, wow, maybe I'm being a little bit too hard on myself. So my son is my daily reminder that I am doing the best I can with the information I have at the time. And so, of course, as humans, we strive to be better. But at the moment, did I do my best? And my answer is always yes, I did. I did do my best.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, that idea of perspective, right? It's kind of like when you're driving in a car and let's say you're driving a beat up car, right? You're like, damn, I hate this car, right? Like this don't work. But from somebody peering in from you from the outside, they're like, damn, she has a car. She's getting to where she needs to know. I don't have that. So it really is all about that perspective. But sometimes, you know, you can't learn that lesson until time has passed and you're able to get that perspective, right? Because it's always like the lesson afterwards. But let's zoom forward now, right? So let's go to New York, right? I know there was some things happening in your. Well, let me reverse a little bit. So I first heard about Gorgeous in Gray, right? Which was your very popular blog and the moniker that you went by before saying, all right, y'all, I'm Ty Alexander, right? But let me tell you this story. I don't think you'll be freaked out, but this is
Okay.
another thing of perspective because you never know who's watching you. So I graduated from Princeton in 2013. I thought I wanted to be this like media, fashion blogger, beauty writer, whatever. But I was learning how to hustle the New York media hustle. Think about the late, 2013, 2014, right? When
Yeah.
events were popping, every brand had things in New York. And it was New York Fashion Week. I still don't remember how I got a backstage invite, but it was to a Tracy Reese fashion show, right?
Yeah.
Backstage. And I think you were covering it backstage
I
for
was.
somebody. And I was with my friend Mary. We both were like, I think I brought her as my assistant. And I was supposed to be writing for, I want to say I was writing for, was this Stylecast? It was some style blog at the time, right? So Mary was my assistant and we were backstage at Tracy Reese. And I see this woman like with beautiful gray hair. And I think you were like holding the mic and doing interviews backstage or something like that. And you were with, what's her name? Daisy? Was that her name? Or was Daisy back? I don't know if you were with her, but I remember also seeing, do you remember that blogger? Her name was,
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, so I was like, who is this girl? Right. And I think I heard someone say, oh, that's Ty Alexander. That's Gorgeous in Gray. And I'm like, Gorgeous in Gray. That's cool. Right. And that's when I first started following you. And isn't it just funny now that you didn't probably see me in the background, right? Just walking around. It's
funny because
trying to figure it out.
I remember, Tracy, that show was a pivotal moment in my career because that was like the first show that I was able to go backstage and interview her like under my own blog. Like I wasn't there with Hello Beautiful, Essence, or anything. I was there for me. I remember what I had on. Like I had on black and white dress. Like my hair was, I literally can see the day.
Yeah, like so I'm over there like looking, I'm like, who is she? Right?
Yeah. I can literally see the day. But that was like the first kind of backstage interview that I got to do for my blog. My blog had reached like the amount of numbers that I needed to have to prove to people that, I could do this on my own. I didn't need to be a part of a big mainstream platform, things like that. And so, yeah, wow. Take me back.
So let's rewind a little bit, just so people who have context who may not know, how did you arrive in New York, right? And like, why did you say, let me try to get into this fashion, beauty, journalism world? Like, what was that origin story there?
Again, another I can do anything.
You gotta have it, right? You gotta have that belief. It's important.
Yeah, I was working regular person working at Baltimore City Child Support, doing a regular government job. But early 2000s, like blogging was becoming a thing, and it was very, relaxed, right? Like we're just on the internet talking about stuff. And so I started a blog. It was a lot of different names. I will spare you, but we arrived at Gorgeous in Gray.
That's all that matters, right?
Yeah, that's all that matters.
The right one.
Yeah, we arrived at Gorgeous in Gray. And so I was blogging, I was writing, liked it a lot. I was documenting stuff. And then I would go, I was still living in Baltimore, but I would go to like New York whenever I found an event. And I would find an event because I was following like bloggers who lived in New York. So like taking you back early days, like Love Brown Sugar.
Oh, Christina. I love Christina.
Yeah. And so like, I think she was like one of the first bloggers I followed on Twitter. And then Danielle from Style and Beauty Doctor. So I would follow all these bloggers who lived in New York who were like doing stuff. And I kind of befriended them on Twitter. And they're like, oh, there's an event on Thursday, whatever. I changed my number to a 917 number so that I would get these New York events. And whenever there was an event in New York on a Tuesday, Thursday, or whatever, I would just hop on the train or the bus and I would go to New York. I would get there around about 5. I would leave at 10, come back home, get on, go about my day. So I did this for a number of years, maybe like 3 or 4 years, so much so that people really thought I lived in New York. So when I think I might have been at Baltimore City Child Support for maybe like 5 years. And I was like, maybe I'll get a promotion or whatever. So I had applied to be a manager, went through all the process, but didn't get it. They hired this manager. The manager comes in and I got to train the manager. I was like, oh, no. Well, I can't
no, like, what is this?
No, this is not going to work out. And so I said, well, what if I moved to New York? What would that look like? And so literally, YOLO moments. I packed first I called my friend, Danielle Young, who worked at Hello Beautiful. And I called her, text her, and I said, hey, do you have any positions at, your job at Hello Beautiful? And she was like, well, there's this editorial assistant job here that maybe you could do. She's like, it doesn't pay that much, but you have to work at Sephora or something like that, yada, yada, yada. So I go up one Tuesday, Thursday, whatever day it was. I take my resume. My resume literally only has my blog on it because I'm not a writer.
you don't want to put that you worked at you were at Baltimore City Child Support.
Literally just has my blog on it, like literally. And so I get there. She interviews me. I do a couple of writing samples, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're really a naturally good writer." And she was like, "We'll do the." And at this point, I think it's just. They really needed an editorial assistant, and I really needed a job. And so I take 2 suitcases. I stay on a friend who's a makeup artist. I stay on her couch, and I take my 2 suitcases and I move to New York, all while my mother is dying of cancer. I say this to say because the reason why I took those 2 suitcases is because one of the last things my mom said to me was, you have to do everything. She was like, I am 56 and there are so many things I can think of that I have never, ever done, that I wanted to do. So if there is a small dream, big dream, little dream, a want, a need, do it. And so I took my 2 suitcases. I went to New York. I worked, had the time of my life, would come home on weekends to see my mom, be sad, go right back up on a Monday and have more fun. So very bittersweet. But that's how I got to New York, through that editorial assistant. Then I became the style and beauty editor. Then I became a copywriter. I took class. That job really propelled me in so many ways, challenged me in so many ways, gave me so many opportunities. Not only just to interview celebrities, but also just to hone in my craft. It's the reason why I wrote a book, because I was able to go to school on them, to study writing, to study journalism. And so, yeah, that's how I got there.
What were you learning about yourself? And, you mentioned that your mom said, do all the things, right? And she had been teaching you that from you when you were young, right? Always believing in anything that you could do. What were you learning? What were some other things you were learning now about what it takes to do all the things? So Dream Drivers, I'm a few months into this mother of 2 life changing diapers every day. Luckily for me, I'm a Pampers Swaddlers mama, so I don't have much to worry about when it comes to changing time. Did y'all know that Pampers Swaddlers features a blowout barrier at the back waist to help prevent up to 100% of leaks, even blowouts? So I can rest assured that I'll have superior leak protection while keeping my baby skin healthy and dry. And listen, need a hot baby shower gift for parents-to-be in 2024? Pampers now has Pampers Diaper Stashes, which is an online diaper fund so you can gift a diaper stockpile that never has to run out. It's the gift that always fits. You can take the guesswork out of choosing what size and how many diapers to gift. And it's easy to use. You just create a surprise diaper stash account, share the link with family and friends, watch that stash grow, and then gift the stash to the parents-to-be so they can buy Pampers diapers and wipes whenever they like. And I wish I had this for my baby shower because, honestly, it just allows others to contribute in a way that allows us parents to buy what we need when we need it. Gifting physical diapers is cool, but that diaper stash fund gives that ease and flexibility back in the hands of us mamas. Pampers, thanks for the new ways to allow family and friends to say, we've got you. Dream Drivers, in today's world, it seems the best treatment is reserved only for a few. Well, Discover wants to change that by making everyone feel special. That's why with your Discover card, you have access to 24/7 live customer service as well as $0 fraud liability, which means you're never held responsible for unauthorized purchases. Finally, no matter who you are or where you are in life, you'll feel special with Discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard. Limitations apply.
The craziest part is what I learned has been the most important thing that I do that other people don't do, that I see, right?
Okay.
Is to start. Like literally.
That's important.
Literally, it's just the start of it, right? Like all of us have so many ideas and wants and dreams, and they literally just are that, right? Like they stay in the journal, they stay in our heads, they never make it to paper, they never make it to action. And so one of my superpowers is I will start. Again, it's the idea of I can do anything, but also I know that there is power in just starting. If I just start something, I know I can figure out the rest. I know I can figure out the 1, 2, 3, 10, whatever steps that I need to go next. The other things I need, of course, I can work on being more disciplined. I can work on execution, right? But if you don't just start, a year will have gone past and you would have done nothing. Literally.
With Gorgeous and Gray, the actual blog and your own independent brand outside of working for these major beauty sites at the time, right? Why do you think Gorgeous and Gray really caught on? I know you mentioned that you think it was the right time, right place. You had a unique niche, but thinking back at it now, like what were you doing as a blogger back in those days that really really helped you grow your audience?
I think what people do now that we know, which is be authentic. I think back then, because blogging was so new, we thought it had to be like this polished version of journalism, right? Like, I think we thought we had to show up in a way that we just don't, right? Like, we are regular people with thoughts and things don't have to be capitalized. Things don't have to be perfect, right? I think that we all thought that the degrees that people got were necessary. And there were more people that came into blogging that proved that it wasn't. You know what I mean? If I'm making sense. And so I really got to a place where it's like, I don't have a degree. I'm a teen mom and you're going to love me. And that's it. And I'm going to show up in the most authentic way that I can because that's all I have. Like, that's my crutch. My crutch is I'm going to be vulnerable and I'm going to tell you that I don't know, that I don't have the things, right? Whereas I think, again, a lot of people were resting on the degrees and the knowledge of things.
That makes sense. From the flip side, then, what were the hard parts? What were some of the challenges of just what it really took to grow back then? Because, it's so funny. I think in your About Me section on your website, you were talking about like people were only paying like $100 for a blog post back then, right? And it's funny because I remember like one of my first like writing gigs, they were paying me like $35. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much money.
I'm making money.
And now, an influencer won't even take a deal for less than
thousands of dollars. Yeah.
So, like, what do you think were the challenges back then? But now that you're coming out of it, because we're all talking about perspective, right? You're like, dang, it's good that I went through that.
I mean, the challenge always for me, it's a challenge that whips my butt all the time, which is, again, just having that deep sense of imposter syndrome. Like, I've been doing this for almost 15 years. I know every bit a part of influencer marketing, right? But to be able to be in a room with someone who got a degree, who might be white also, I'll add that. Okay. I still feel a little bit of like, dang, do I deserve to be here? And it's really just because my journey is unconventional, right? Like, my journey wasn't planned. None of it was planned. Everything was spur of the moment. I figured it out as I went along. But there's something to be said about the experience that is valuable, right? And we don't talk enough about that. I think the next generation does, just because of how unconventional things are now, and that's how y'all grew up. But I'm still of the generation where you got a job, you either went to school, but you still got a job that you retired from, right? You still got a job at the government, or you got a trade and then you retired from that. Like, the goal was to get a pension. Like, there was a very strict income. This is how we do it, right? Where y'all are like, well, we're going to make money any way we can because college was expensive and I have these bills to pay. You know what I mean? And so, it's just that's still just my one challenge, is just that imposter syndrome. And I don't know if I'll ever get over it per se. I think just because of how my journey has led me, But I'm also still, I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna do it regardless.
I like that you added, like, I'm gonna feel the imposter syndrome, but I'm gonna do it
feel,
anyway.
I'm gonna feel every bit of, I mean, that's a lot. Like, I'm always gonna feel everything that I am going through. I'm definitely a human being that honors the feeling. But I know that feelings are not factual. They are not my story. They are not what dictate my decisions. So while I'm feeling them, I'm still of sound mind and body to say, that's not true, right? And you still can do this and you're going to kill it. And that's that.
You know, and I think that's the important part of that lesson there, because there's so many of us who, like you said, like the biggest thing some people do is they don't start, right? And the biggest thing that some people do is feel these feelings and let the feelings take them over, and then they just continue not to do anything. So knowing that you can feel what you feel, but still push through, and you can still be resilient and take up space is really important. Let's fast forward to 2019, right? Gorgeous in Gray is doing well, but you're like, I don't want to only be known as Gorgeous Gray. Take us through the reasoning and why now that we're talking about perspective, right? Why now, looking back, switching to Ty Alexander and really branding yourself as you was so important to where you were going to go after that?
I mean, now I see it's just wild, because I think I just pay attention to the universe or God, whatever we want to choose to say, right? Like, I think I just pay attention to the moves I should make. But while I'm doing it, I have no idea what it's doing for the future, right? Like, I didn't really think about, I could tell the lens of blogging was changing. Like, there were a few people who were like starting in the door as themselves, right? But I just could feel the lens of blogging changing. Like, Instagram was becoming a big thing. People were, paying attention more to like individual style, lifestyle content was becoming big. Vlogging was now a thing. Like, I'm gonna sit and watch you do stuff for 30 minutes on YouTube, right? And so people were becoming, you were the content, not I'm me talking about style or me talking about beauty. I'm the content. I'm the person that you want to see. You want to see me do everything, whatever it is, because you love me. Like, I could see that happening. And so I was like, I can't do that. I can't talk about all the things that I love. Because of course, yes, I love style and beauty, but I like cars too. I like going to hotel. I like traveling. I like music. Like, I can't do all of that and still have this name that is solely based in beauty. And so while my own need to talk about other things was becoming bigger, I was like, I have to just be Ty Alexander, which is a whole nother story. Because if I tell you how I had to beg Instagram to give me my damn name.
Are you serious?
My God, it took me forever.
Was there somebody else with their name?
So it was like saved, but no one was using it. Like, so I could get it, but I had to prove that like it was me. Like, I had to prove that that was my name. So I had to send my license. Then I had to get on the video call with the person. Like, it was so much. And then but before that, just finding a person to talk
Instagram
to. Oh my God.
Is like
it don't exist. Instagram support where? There's no Instagram support. Like, what? So it like took me I think at the time I had like asked my followers, did anybody work at Instagram? And somebody replied. And then that person gave me an email. Girl, it was so much to change my name. So I was like, once we here. That's it. I'm not changing it no more.
Oh no, that's so funny, but it's like I'm glad that you got it right, because somebody, you would have to then be like XO Ty Alexander. XO,
oh my God! Well, because like before I was Love Ty Alexander. Like, I went through the whole thing because I was like, I can't even have my whole name, so I'll be, and even my website is tyalexander.co because .com. A lady bought it for her son. He's got to be grown now, but at the time he was a kid. And I had, how you can go on the back end and see who owns the domain or whatever. And so I contacted her and she was like, oh, no, I don't want to sell it. I'm so sorry. I bought it for my son. And I was like, boo. But great for you for being proactive, because I should have. And so in the beginning, I was definitely Love Ty Alexander because it wasn't there. And so I had to go through all of this rigmarole, as the old people say, just to get my stuff back.
Rigmarole. I haven't heard that word. So
this is a grandma word.
You know, I think it's just funny because it's like, you know, but you made it work and you're like, I'm going to figure it out, right? Because you could have just said, all right, I'll settle for it. But you said, nah, I'm going to figure it out. And you did. And I think those are the lessons that a lot of us can take from, like, there are going to be little trip ups, but that doesn't mean you can't figure it out.
For
right?
sure. For sure.
So this is where I think it just gets so interesting. As you know, for people listening, right? I've been following this because I saw her at the Tracy Reese
story all these decades.
Yes, I've been following this since 2000. I think that's probably 2014, that Tracy Reese show, or whenever that was, right? I've been following it. And so I was like, what? She's DJ? What? Right? Okay, so let's go to, I think it's 2019 or 2020 when you decided to take a DJ class, right?
Yeah.
So we're at this part of the story. So I'll let you fill it in now.
Okay, so I can start at 2019. 2019. Okay. I have my husband's cousin's husband. Keep up.
Okay.
My husband's cousin's husband is a DJ, a popular DJ here in Baltimore. And we always go to their house for Thanksgiving. And so he's DJing and I'm looking at him and I'm like, I really want to DJ. I was like, can you teach me to DJ? And he says, oh, I'm going to start a school next year. So just wait, give me a second. I said, oh, okay, even better. We're just whatever.
Do you think he took you seriously at that point?
I don't think either of us took either one of us seriously. Okay. I was like, okay, school, sure, sir, whatever. And so, you know, I go on, whatever. So then come January 2020, he announces that him and his other partner, another popular DJ in Baltimore, are starting a DJ academy. So I sign up. I'm like, sign me up. It's a 5-week course. You learn all the intro beginning situations of DJing. So from January to February, I take this 5-week class. We end like February 20th or something like. I'm like, okay, cool. I know how to DJ. So I get a little controller. I'm doing a little whatever, thinking nothing of it. Just something fun to do. March comes. We know what happens March 2020.
Tell the people what happened, just in case they don't know, but they should know.
COVID made us all sit down. COVID happened. We're on quarantine. You know, we originally are on quarantine for a couple of weeks, depending on what state it was you were living in. It was serious. It wasn't. You know, like America was real iffy about what we were supposed to do. We end up being on lockdown basically for a whole year. So I'm at home, locked up, basically.
You're not really doing like the lifestyle events, all that other stuff that you were
everything
doing
is closed. Right? Literally everything is closed. Nothing is open. I have nothing to do. And I have music and a controller and YouTube. So I continue learning. I am Googling videos. I'm duplicating, you know, DJ mixes. I'm teaching myself how to scratch. I'm doing all of the things because we have a year. It's funny because I tell people all the time, I didn't realize people who are musicians and singers talk about the 10,000 hours of practice. And that's how you know when you're like an expert at something because you've practiced something 10,000 hours. I had a whole year of practice. There's no way I could not have gotten good because I literally practiced every single day. There were times I remember being in the quarantine and just not going to bed. Like I was just up till 6 o'clock in the morning, listening to music, putting different songs together, playing with mashups, just getting lost in the music, thinking about where I was when the song came out, how I felt, like literally in love with music. And I did that for a whole year. And then even when 2021 came around, we wasn't outside all like that. I was still scary because people were dying for real.
People are halfway outsd, you know, like they were outside and running back in when they're like, oh, how did this happen to me?
Listen, I went outside one time in the early part of 2021. I went outside and I was like, oh, it's still a little scary spice outside. I'm gonna go back inside. I'm not staying out here. I'm gonna go back inside. So literally I was just inside practicing. When it was time for the world to open up, a friend of mine who works for Cadillac said, I'm going to Martha's Vineyard. Do you want to DJ? And I was like, I guess.
Let's pause. Let's pause right there, right? You said, I guess. But you mentioned something earlier that I just thought was so interesting about how you got lost in the music, right? Why do you think, or what about DJing made you fall in love, if that makes sense, right? Like, well, what was that thing that really got you intoxicated?
Backstory, I've always kind of wanted to DJ ever since the movie Juice. Like I really was kind of engulfed in that. But back in the 90s, they were still on turntables, carrying crates, buying records. So the craft was just wildly expensive. And so you had to you were either from a rich family or a guy who had a job or a guy who was hustling, right?
Okay.
Like you really didn't, very rarely could you be a DJ at that time because it was such an expensive craft to have. Of course, now we're digital, things are expensive, but not as expensive back then. So in 2019, when I had the money, I was like, I got $500 for a class. Sure.
Let's do it.
Why not? Mm-hmm. Let's do it. Like what, like, you know, and again, I'm still of the thought of hearing my mom in the back of my head say, try everything. What it doesn't, of course, I could not have written this story if I wrote it myself. I would have not have predicted that I would have added DJ to my talent, right? Or been an actual DJ. My thing was, I'm just going to take a DJ class.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to try it because why can't I try it? And if I'm good, I'm good. If I'm not, I'm not. I just happen to be good.
You didn't just happen to be good. You was practicing too, right? You didn't just follow the DJ control like, I know what I'm doing.
It's funny because I was talking to a guy yesterday at my gig because he was asking me the same thing, like, how did I get here? And I said to him, I said, I don't believe in coincidence, right? But I also am not sure, had I had taken the same class a year prior when life was just happening, or 2 years prior, or even now, right? I'm not sure I would have intentionally given it that much practice. I had practice because I didn't have anything else to do. And so that's why I believe like my steps are ordained. Like this DJ, this part of my life, this DJ part is even more proof to me that I am really kind of just making certain moves, but certain things are already destined for me. Because again, if I had have done this earlier or later, I'm not sure I would have stopped and intentionally been this good, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If I'm making sense, like the world purposely gave me a year to be better. And I am for that, right? And so I can't say wholeheartedly that in 2016, had I done this, I would have been, because there is a video of me, or picture of me rather. I was at a brand event, and it was at the Scratch Academy, which is a very popular DJ academy in LA and New York, but I was at the one in New York, and Forever 21 was doing an event there. And so there's a picture of me on the turntables, and my caption is something like, what if I were a DJ? That was like in 2016. Ooh. And so I've thought about being a DJ for a while. Like it's just been something like, oh, what if I am, that kind of thing. I even went to Essence Festival for I think I was there for Walmart, and there's a DJ there, and I'm dancing with the DJ because I'm like the in-store host or whatever. And so I'm dancing with the DJ, and my caption again is still like, what if I'm a DJ? Wow. Again, just little whatever. That's why I'm saying I don't believe in coincidences. I can't explain it to you. I don't know the why. I don't know the whatever. And maybe it is just to show people that, again, your dreams are dreams and they're real and you can do them and just start, right? But I literally could not have written a better story had I wrote it myself. Like this DJ is just... I don't know. Don't ask me what's next, but I don't know.
But I want to go back to where I stopped you at, and you talked about the woman who worked at Cadillac. Was it Cadillac, right?
Oh, yes. My friend's Cadillac.
Quick question. Did you meet her from doing your prior?
Yep, I did.
Look, right? That's another thing, because if you hadn't done the Gorgeous and Gray world, right?
Everything in my life literally says that my steps are ordained, or even if you don't believe, maybe let's take the religion out of it. It really is just that idea that every decision that you made a year before is helping your future person, your future self, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was able to, because it's also fascinating to other DJs, because DJs will be like, how you get in here and you get all these gigs? Well, I am good. Let's start there.
You're right. I love that. I had a question about that because, you are not afraid to say I'm good. And I think that's something that so many of us, Black women, I will say that, like, sometimes we diminish ourselves and we diminish our power and we don't step in and say, oh, I'm the bad bitch, right? You know what I mean? Like, in that sense of like, I do this thing. And I just love that about your story.
So two things. One, I wasn't, just for the listeners out there, I wasn't always like this in the beginning. DJing, also learning something new, also humbled the hell out of me. And in the beginning, I was very much shy. I don't know what I'm doing. But when I had like actual legends, like I had Jazzy Jeff tell me at a festival, I opened up for him and he said, you are far beyond good. You are better than most DJs out here. He was like, I can tell that you have been practicing. I can tell that you love this. I can tell that this is what you want to do. And so when you have people like that telling you, my mind was like, okay, so maybe I am good. I am good. The other thing that happened, I was at a festival, actually the same festival the next year. There was a more experienced DJ there. And this was in my stage. Like at one point, I was always telling people, oh, I'm a new DJ. I'm a new DJ. My one friend was like, stop telling people that because they're not. Everyone's not for you. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm a new DJ. So I'm telling this guy, I'm a new DJ. And he's like, oh, yeah. He was like, you're the new DJ that the people be talking about. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, you got to do this. So he's giving me all these tips. But what I didn't realize was he was getting in my head. And so I'm going to go perform. I get up there and I'm thinking about all the things he said not to do or to do. And I am just out of my element. I'm not connecting with the audience. I'm not doing anything, right? I'm not doing any of the things that
make Ty Alexander.
That's it right there. That's it right there. That's it right there. I'm not doing any of the things that I know make me unique, that make me vulnerable. The one thing that I can say that blogging or that world taught me was that I have to show up to be me in any space I am in. And the minute that I go against who I am is the minute things fall apart. It's the minute that things don't work out. It's the minute that I don't get the deal. I don't get the campaign. I don't get the whatever, right? The minute that I don't show up as who I am is the minute the no is like, well, never mind. She's not the one. If I show up as my authentic self every single time and I am who you're looking for, what's for me is for me. That's what they say too. You know what I mean? But I get up there and I do okay. But then he comes behind me. He plays some of the songs that I play. Like he's making a mockery of what I'm doing, basically. And I said to myself, I called the other DJ he's from LA. I called my friend and I said, you were right. I said, I can no longer say I'm a new DJ because that man got in my head, knew that I wasn't experienced enough and got in my head. And I got up there and forgot everything I knew to do. He was like, you got to stop saying it. So from there, I just started saying, I'm good. But I had thought before that. I think I was saying, Cadillac.
Oh, yes. We'll go back to Cadillac. Yeah. No, let's not go to Cadillac. We're going to get to Cadillac. You can include it, but I was going to say...
Well, no, I was going to say that when I got into DJing, I was able to maneuver in a different way because I had built these relationships in the industry that I was in prior, right? And so because I knew the Cadillac, because people from Target was following, because US Open was following me, a lot of the big gigs that I got super early that a DJ who may have been DJing for 10 years may not ever get because they don't have access to it. I had access to that world. And so now for me, it's like, oh, I know Ty, she does this, but now she's also this. And so it's just been, I don't want to say easier, but I just have access to a different world that some DJs take a really long time to get there.
You don't have to share like specific numbers here, but is the DJ part of the world versus like being an influencer on the ground financially, right? So is it still like
influencing is still worlds bigger.
Okay.
Just because we don't realize that brands really make out when they use an influencer, because they normally, how the world would have worked prior to influencer, right, is I go and I pay a studio and I have to hire a photographer. Then I have to hire the makeup artist, the stylist, and I have to get the model. And you pay an astronomical amount for this ad. Influencers came and changed the model of that and made it way cheaper for the brand, for the person. And so while we're making a lot of money, the brand is still saving what they would have paid $500,000 for an ad for something. And this was, again, this is 2000s prices. I don't know what they are now. But for a spot on the TV that you would have paid $500,000 maybe for an ad, you can get an influencer to do it for $10,000. Like we don't really talk about the numbers game and how like the influencer marketing world, while it's $1 million business and it is growing, it is still a model that is more efficient. It is, the growth of it is astronomical. The engagement of it is also just authentic and different than having an ad on the TV or even on the radio, you can argue, right? And so that money is still big. If I were D-Nice or Jazzy Jeff, which I hope to be, then the money will come in. Not to say I'm not making money, but the influencer world is still by far just a large industry because, again, companies and brands were already paying lots of money for advertising, for marketing. And this new model has saved me money, even though it's a lot to us, if that makes sense.
You know, that makes a lot of sense. But my question then is like, could you then say like, could you mix the two since you were still an influencer, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Now you got to pay me my influencer rate. I'm just going to DJ. I don't know.
Well, I don't know if I ever mixed the two, but I have reached the point where, because I used to be like, oh, I've transitioned into a DJ, when I was like, well, I don't have to pick one, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily that I'm the DJ now. I'm also a DJ, right? And so I still share my hair stuff. I still share my favorite lipsticks, what I'm wearing, whatever. So I'm still an influencer in that, right? I just have also added another talent to my little bar.
How do you think brands treat the DJ versus the influencer differently?
I'm not sure, because I am an influencer first to them.
Okay, yeah.
So, I mean, like I guess locally, I could say sometimes it's the shitty part of the stick. I don't know if we can cuss here, but sometimes
yeah, you can.
Okay, like sometimes it's the shitty part of the stick, because like people still think the DJ just comes and plays the music. A lot of people don't understand the intricate parts of what it takes to be a DJ, how much, like, sure, I'm here for 2 hours, but the prep that it takes, like on a daily basis, I am listening to songs, setting cue points, which is like what the song does at different areas. So I got to listen to the song a couple of times. I got to pick out the good part of the song where I want to like, it's just a lot of intricate things that happen. And then when you think about how many songs there are in the world to listen to, like, it's a lot.
Be always a student, it seems like, right?
A DJ is always a student of music. And so there's always a new song. There's always there's a new genre. Like I'm a Piano is a new genre that we're all in love with. So now we're deep diving into this genre. And so like, it's always something to learn. So the prep of it really is what DJs charge for, not necessarily I just was there for 2 hours or an hour or whatever, you know what I mean? But because people don't see that, which I'm grateful that a lot of DJs are now on social and they're also content creators now. So you get to see, and I try to do better about like just showing, what I do, how do I pick apart a song, how I get ready, then I got to pick an outfit out. Like, I think we're just innately all content creators. So you see the back end of what a DJ does, but definitely people who are just DJs, I can imagine and feel sometimes when I am just known as the DJ, but even locally, like people know I'm also an influencer. It's like a real run-on sentence. But I think the DJ world definitely doesn't get enough respect, especially if you're a Black DJ and a DJ who plays like hip hop. I think when you're a DJ who is white and you play hip hop, you have more concessions. You have people who give you more allowances or even more money.
Right? It's
you're a spectacle. Like, oh, here's this Asian guy who plays, you know, hip hop, what, you know, like people want to see that, right? And so it's just the weirdest thing. So in short, yes, I think, or yes, DJs definitely aren't as respected as they probably should. But because I have the privilege of leading first as an influencer. So I have definitely and will continue to use that to my leverage to obtain gigs or get opportunities, because I have spent literally 15 years building a community who will go where I say to go, because I'll
as
be
you
here.
should, as you should. You know, Ty, thinking about like where you are right now, right? You've done so much in so little time. And I'll say that as like, you know, there's some people who are like, I've been trying to be a DJ for 20 years, right? And it just never happened. Like, what would you say to that person who has this dream but just feels like it's not happening fast enough, right? Or the getting to drive is just taking too long.
I mean, one, learning that nothing happens fast enough for any human being. And I have those same moments where I'd be like, I should be here and I should be having this and I want to do this. Even with Essence Festival, I remember my first year of DJing and I reached out to them and they were like, still very much
although you
right.
you had those, you know,
although I had just did the US Open, I had done a numerous amount of big gigs, and they were very, very much like, sure, whatever. And so I was a little bit bummed, you know, and I was very much like, I should be there. I deserve to be there, which was still very true, but it really is not on my timing. I'm a firm believer of things really do happen when they're supposed to happen. And I ended up being at Essence Festival last year with a brand, which I still believe was more money than if I had went with Essence Festival, right? Like, just because being on the brand side. Still being with Essence Festival is still a dream. Like, I still want to go and be an Essence Festival DJ. But yeah, I don't know what the point of that was saying, but
no, you made a lot of sense there. I just think that some people just get caught up and then they do what you said not to do. Like, you know how you said in the beginning, starting is so important, right? Some people just close the book. Some people just put the gear into park and walk away, right? And they're left with this thing that your mother told you she doesn't want you to ever not try the things, right? What else would you say to that person who is like, you know, Ty, it's easy for you to say this because you've always been somebody who's been confident. You've had a support system, although she's not here, but her lessons are still with you, right? You wrote about that in your book, Things I Wish I Knew Before My Mother Died, the lessons that she gave you, right? But what would you say to that person who's still doubting themselves? Because I've interviewed so many people on this podcast, and I always say, like, what's the key to success? And a lot of people, I think it's going to be something tactical, but it's always those personal things. It's always overcoming those personal challenges that hinder people. But what would you say to that person who's just teetering, who's on the seesaw? Like, I don't know what to do.
I mean, I would say to them that I'm also on the seesaw. It's just that the seesaws are so personal that you can't see mine, right? Like, I can't see the ups and downs in your life. And most of us, especially on social media, we're only sharing the good. And maybe you might share a bad day every now and then, but there's no, and who wants to follow that, right? Like, we don't want to follow the person and all they're talking about is, oh my God.
Could you imagine? You know what? Maybe that could be that could probably be a new thing, though. Somebody can make something from
it's not.
I'm gonna start and get back to you. All right, I'm gonna start a burner.
We do not. We do the thing that we don't acknowledge enough about why social media is so addictive is because it is our escapism in a world where genocide is actually happening. Right, like in a world that things are happening that we have no control over, that we know are bad. Social media content that people create, it is our way to escape. It is our way to feel a little bit of normalcy. It is our way to feel like, well, maybe the world isn't bad when it really is. But you know what I mean? Like, and so
get a dopamine hit. You get like a little
no, I don't want to follow the person who all they're talking about is the woe is me. But that's also not for us to assume that the woe is me isn't happening.
Yeah.
Because it is. And so I would say the same seesaw that you're on, I'm on it. The same, I don't know if I'm good enough, I'm there. I feel that. I feel all of that. But the idea, again, is to start and do it despite everything that I've done, is despite the fear, despite the lack, despite the I might not make it. And I honestly don't, at this point, for me, I'm so good at it. It's almost like a little delulu. I don't even know it exists. Like, I'm just like, oh, there was a possibility this couldn't work. Oh, that's interesting. Like, I don't even think about it at this point. Like, that's how much I've conditioned my mind to just start and do and keep doing whatever it is. Like, I don't even think about the idea that something might happen or it might not work out.
I love that. And it's like, if you don't think about it, then you're not going to, that energy won't ever consume what you're doing. You know what I mean?
And I'm always thinking about the energy that I choose to allow in is the energy of how to get better or how to make it work. I'm never, very rarely, like, of course, again, I'm not perfect. And I have moments of, oh, girl, was this the right thing? Like, of course, you know what I mean? But it's like, those are so small because my mind is literally like, wow, I've started this thing and I like it. Right. And so if I started and I like it, let me keep going. It's another thing because I do acknowledge that there are people who start things and maybe it's not really the thing that they wanted to do. So then the real conversation is getting to know yourself. Right.
Yeah.
And learning what makes you tick, what makes you happy, what brings you joy. A lot of times it's not really the idea that you start something and it's not working. It's you started something that you didn't want to do in the first place. You started something
for the wrong reasons, right? Like,
for the wrong,
say, like, you're so good at this. You so good at painting. You should be a painter.
I shouldn't.
You be a painter.
No, I shouldn't.
It's like, I don't like painting. I like choosing the colors. I like choosing colors. You know, it's just
so. Prime example. I want to learn how to sew, but for very selfish reasons. I want to fix a hem. I want to turn a dress into a skirt and a top, right? And so I'm going to learn to sew, but that's not to say that I'm going to be the next fashion designer. And so you got to learn, especially when we talk about crafts and new skills that we learn to do, you got to learn when something can be a hobby and when something can make money and when something's good. And again, I didn't go into it. That's the difference that you talk about, right? Like, I didn't go into DJing saying, I'm going to be a DJ and I'm going to make a lot of money. I never said that. Never once. I said, I want to learn to DJ. Period. That's it. I had no expectations, no goal, no, the only goal was to do it. That's it. And everything after that was, God's will, call it what you want, the universe, whatever.
You know what's funny, Ty? So in doing my research for this episode, I went and listened to your podcast, Self-Care in Real Life, right?
Yes.
And I was looking for an episode. I'm like, let me just find an episode that I think will give me something that I could probably use for this podcast. So I was scrolling down. There was one that was called Lessons I Learned During New York Fashion Week.
Yes.
And I think it was the one where you're like, normally you write a lot of notes for your podcast, but this one you were doing off the cuff, right? And there was just a point of that where you were talking about the journey to becoming a DJ, and you just had this passion and you followed it and you saw where it took you. And it's funny because that same day, I didn't know that's what you were going to talk about in that episode, but I have been teetering. I've been on a seesaw, right?
Yeah.
I've always loved photography, and I was that girl who were like, I've been the documenter of my friends since we were like toddlers, right? Like, I was a baby taking pictures of other people. And it's funny because I just feel like it's something that I just forgot, right? Like, I had kids, I had other people with their photography dreams. And I'm just like, Raina, you still like that camera. Just pick it up and see what happens. And I told myself, I'm going to just start taking my camera, and not my iPhone camera, right? My actual camera, and just start taking pictures and see what happens. And that's all, right? So it's funny because before listening to that episode, it's something I've been thinking about. Just pick up the camera. I keep hearing the voice, pick up the camera again. And that's all I'm hearing, right? I don't know what's going to happen when I pick up the camera, but something is telling me, Raina, pick up that camera.
Well, and I also think it doesn't matter what happens once it's again, the start. And whatever. And so a lot of my journey, again, that's why I love interviews, but then I hate them because I'm like, I don't have the answer. I don't have a an explanation for some things because I literally, it's literally just a feeling. It's like, I'm going to do this. And if it works, if it turns into something, it is, right? Which is, again, supporting the imposter syndrome, because I don't have a blueprint to things. I can't explain to you how I got to this place, right? Like, fortunately with DJing, I can kind of explain it to you because I was more conscious and aware. But prior, like the whole blogging life, I can't explain most of that because I was so present in the moment. I have no idea the real steps it took to get me there. I literally looked up and I've arrived at this place. And I'm like, oh, well, okay, let's figure out what it is. Like, what's next? But I think so much of our lives, when we talk about like being successful, is behind this. Here are these 10 steps. And if I do these 10 steps, I can be this. What if life really was, what are these things that bring you joy? And what would happen if I did all these things that bring me joy? And if I got so good at bringing joy to my life, what if income just followed? Like, there's an idea. There's an idea, right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so, of course, while I'm not the billionaire that I think I deserve to be, but we're still working on that. But there is something to be said about how I have been able to make a living off of doing things that bring me joy, period. I have not had like a job in a really long time, a conventional job. All the jobs I've had have been jobs that are from my craft, but also jobs that bring me joy. I love the idea of influencing. I love building the art that it comes with building community. That when even you reminded me about Tracy Reese and how long you've been a follower. And so maybe we've never had like a real exchange, but we've had an exchange. That exchanging of energy, exchanging of dreams and thoughts and goals still happens, even if one of the parties doesn't really see it. You know what I mean? And so I'm on the other end, not thinking I'm influencing in that way, but knowing,
right? You said with your son, like you had one idea of what his life was like, and he's like, "Wow, I had a great life," right?
Exactly.
Perspective.
I meet people all the time, and I meet people literally. Some people think I'm Beyonce in their mind. And I think
cool though. Like, you know, like, dang. Really?
It's cool, but it's the wildest thing. But then in perspective, like my first initial thought is like, I am nobody Beyonce. You gotta stop crying. Like, this is weird. But on the flip side, I'm like, it is the most honorable thing, right? To think that my world, my life, my words, my advice, my little snarky commentary on the internet has influenced you in such a way that when you meet me, you lose your shit. That is wild. Yeah. And also, again, perspective. You never know who or what you're influencing. And that's why I love that. That's why it brings me so much joy. That's why I show up daily, because I've been on the other end where I'm having a shitty day. The world is kicking my butt. I'm trying to fight back. I open up Instagram stories and somebody makes me laugh. The world no longer is winning. I feel like I'm armed again, right? And so it's just a beautiful world to be a part of. And if you're able to, again, find something, do something that brings you joy, and because of that, you can make an income out of that, I don't know what other way to work.
So I want to wind us down, right? I feel like we could talk forever, right? But I know time is something that does go. But I wanted to leave you with this, because I was listening to a Busta Rhymes interview, right? And
oh my God, tore me up.
The Stephen Bartlett,
tore me up, friend.
Okay.
Tore me
up. It was
so
good, right?
Oh, it was
you guys,
so good.
Listen to that one. It's Diary of a CEO. I will shout out other podcasts because it's a good one, right? Busta Rhymes, he mentioned just talking about, I think, that same very thing that you talked about, of like not knowing the impact you had and how he helped. Mm-hmm. I think he was basically saying like the guy who started Google, listen to his music. But it's like, you chase after that. Not saying, he said it was like addictive, right? Like knowing that somebody is going to be influenced by what you're doing, right? Outside of just knowing that somebody could be influenced by what you're putting out into the world, what else keeps you going? Like, what's that fuel in your gas tank that is helping you get to the next destination, even if you don't know what it is? You said don't ask you what's next. I won't, but I'll just ask you what's fueling the gas. What's fueling your car right now?
grieving is a real thing for most of us, right? Like I think we're all grieving something. Some of us, unfortunately, are grieving mothers and daughters and fathers and, loved ones and spouses, right? So we're in this habitual state of grief. I learned early when my mom died that gratitude and joy were the things that were like making grief a little bit less loud. And so I am officially addicted to joy, whatever that is, however it is. I remember early, maybe like 5 years after my mom had passed, I was in therapy and my therapist said, I want you to write down 10 things that bring you joy, nothing to do with anybody else. What are the 10 things that you can do that will bring you joy? And from that list has grown. It's probably like maybe 60 things on there. And I go do them things daily. And they're small things like watching TV, small things like writing poetry that no one will ever read. Very small things. And so I am literally on a quest to be joyful every day. And of course, I know that there are some days where I'll get sad. I miss my mom. It's the holidays. Her birthday will be soon. I'll get sad. But if I can spend most of my days, most of my moments chasing joy, I am fulfilled. And I know that this is my purpose. And hopefully it'll inspire somebody else to do the same thing.
Thank you so much, Ty. This has been such an amazing conversation. I just want to end with one last thing. If you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So can you tell our listeners 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road?
It's funny because you can't get in the car if you don't start it.
You get in the car, you'll just get cold because, depending on where you are.
Yeah. It's a good analogy, like to support my theory. Like you can't just get in the car. You got to start the baby. And so I would say to anybody, whatever it is, you got to start. And when you start, you have to understand that this world is so unpredictable. There is I wish that there was a blueprint. I wish that there was a manual. I wish that there was lots of books. I mean, of course there are, but I wish that there was one big book that we could go and say, this is the problem. Here's how to solve it. Unfortunately, there is not. So you have to understand that once you start, the car might cut off on you. The car might stop on you. You might get a flat tire, but you got to start it again. You got to get you a new tire. You got to start again. And I think that is, number 1 is to start. Number 2, let's see, after you start, this is where you edit the dead space because I got to think about it.
It's okay. It's okay. That's funny. You just made me think about, dang, I could try to get like an auto repair sponsor for my podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's a good one.
New tires.
The dream and drive is a good concept, and the car kind of just. But after you start, I would say to believe. I think a lot of the reasons why we don't continue is because we stopped believing in the dream. We started for different reasons. I think also, in general, starting something to make money, usually it goes bad unless you have capital. If you are of a trust fund or whatever, you have capital to start a business, fine, sure. But if you don't have capital and you're starting a business just to make money, it's going to fail every single time. You have to have some type of passion, some type of joy to put behind this. And that is what's going to make you not start, right? That passion, that joy is going to say, I got to figure out how to put this car back on again because I really love doing this, right? And so you really have to believe in what you're doing. And the third thing I would say, I think a lot of people don't emphasis enough because we don't really talk about just the universe and God and whatever. I think karma is a real thing. And I think, yeah.
I didn't think you was going to take it there, but yeah.
I think karma is a real thing, and we don't put enough on relationships, right? Like, and I'll take you and I, for instance. I didn't know who you were, and I think I ignored the first email just because, I get tons of emails asking me. And
it's okay, Ty. It's okay.
Not for nothing. Listen, so I'm going to be candid with you. Not for nothing. Okay. I get lots of emails. I'm saying hundreds of emails of people either asking to be on my podcast or me asking them to be on theirs. And so most of it I ignore. I just do. I just don't have the time. It's just whatever. Something I saw the little circle. I said, oh, she's a Black girl. Then I click on it. Then I think you commented on one of you.
Yeah, let me just try. I'm gonna keep
I think you sent me. But listen, this is also a testament to the when you want something, when you believe in something, you just keep trying. Because you could have just said, "Oh no, well, she's ignoring me, whatever," right? And I saw the message and I said, "Oh, let me look." And then he was like, "Oh, I emailed you," and then so I read it and I was like, "Oh, it's a Black girl." I clicked on it. I said, I'm going to make some time for her, right? But I believe in karma. I believe in the idea of being kind. And I didn't know the Tracy Reese story. I didn't know that you had followed me forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't know any of this.
You know, we even Facebook friends. I think I must have been like...
Probably.
We are.
Like, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't know the influence, the impact you have on people. And knowing that, you should be kind. Right? You should make space for people. And I think that model, that character in you, that value system leaves room for opportunities to come your way when you make space and time and when you're kind to people. We talk about being cutthroat. We talk about getting backstabbed. Let's talk about how to be kind to people in business. Right. And maybe it's not like I can't do it all the time. I can't, because I'm busy and on my schedule with doing this, that, and the third. But when you can, I said, oh, my December is pretty clear. Let me see if I can have some time in December. And I scheduled the interview. Little did I know.
You said you was about to get popping. You was about to be popping, girl.
and I literally said to myself, I said, oh God, I done scheduled this interview. I got something to do the day before and the day before. I said, nope. Me also, I'm working on having integrity, which we also don't think about or talk about. I said I was going to do something, and I'm going to do it. I'm not going to just cancel because I don't feel like it. You know what I mean? And so again, that's a part of me honoring my own karma, honoring just karma in general, because you don't get but so far unless you have money. I will preface that. You can't get but so far doing people dirty and always looking out for yourself. So a lot of the things, again, is just be kind to people in my long-winded way.
No, well, thank you, Ty. I promise you, this is the end. The end for real this time.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure. This conversation has been so good. I also just want to make sure that you have some time to tell our listeners where they can follow you, where they can get your book, where they can listen to your podcast. Tell us all of those details.
Yes. My podcast is Self-Care in Real Life. It's selfcareirl.com, and I'm on all the podcasts wherever you listen to it. Sorry. My Instagram is Ty Alexander. On Twitter, I am loved. Just follow me everywhere. I'm also Googleable. If you Google my name, I will come up. My book is most accessible on Amazon.com, but you can find it in Barnes & Nobles. And if they don't have it, let them know and they'll get it for you.
All right, so that's a wrap for this episode of Dreams and Drive. I hope you enjoyed our guests' dream driving journey as well as listening to their keys to success. If you love this episode, you know what to do. Please make sure that you are following us. We are at Dreams and Drive across social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So make sure you're sharing this episode, posting it to your Instagram stories, texting it to a friend, sharing on LinkedIn, wherever you are or online. Just pay this forward and share this with somebody. We really appreciate it. And all the sharing that you do helps us grow our community. If you want to join our email newsletter, The Keys, and get weekly updates delivered to your inbox, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. And lastly, if you know somebody who would be great for this show, or if you are someone who would be great for this show, please go to dreamsanddrive.com/pitch. I'm always accepting new guests. I'm always accepting new pitches. So I love to see those pitch requests coming in. Keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in the next episode. Bye, guys.